It's Wednesday, the 15th of December 2021. Welcome to the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
Okay, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's get into it. Story number 1, Sean, I think we both thought all the big deals were pretty much done for the year, but we were definitely wrong. CSL has bid $16.4 billion for a Swiss pharmaceutical company in a deal which is going to expand its operations significantly.
Yes, the Blood Plasma Group made the bid for Swiss group Vifa Pharma, rounding out an incredible year for mergers and acquisitions activity across Australia. Now, CSL will raise $6.3 billion in capital to help pay for it. CEO Paul Perreault is quoted as saying it will be earnings accretive, i.e. earnings will rise when they take it on, and will give CSL the chance to leverage its scientific expertise. The deal, assuming it passes all the hurdles, will transform CSL away from just blood products towards being a global pharmaceutical company, including kidney or nephrology services and iron deficiency therapy. It is incredible how many big deals we've had this year. The biggest one of them all was Square's $39 billion acquisition of Afterpay. That got shareholder approval yesterday. Next in line was a $30 billion bid for Sydney Airport from a consortium of mostly superannuation funds. We had Woodside merging with BHP's petroleum assets. We had Santos and Oil Search merging. We had private equity group Brookfield bidding for AusNet Services, another PE group, Blackstone, trying to buy Crown Resorts. Incredible year around mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, a lot of money moving around right now. Okay, story number 2, a bit of a worrying one, Sean, out of New South Wales. A big surge in COVID cases, 804 new locally acquired infections yesterday.
Yes, and the spike came just 24 hours before restrictions are wound back, with mask wearing and QR codes no longer mandatory outside public transport from today. Also, unvaccinated people will be allowed the same freedoms as vaccinated residents. The state's Health Minister Brad Hazzard said there were no plans for snap lockdowns, thankfully, but he did call on the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation to advise people to receive a booster shot as early as 3 months after their second dose. Now, health authorities expect the number of cases in New South Wales to continue to spike. In short, Christmas parties, that's the problem. New South Wales has now reached a 93% vaccination rate for over 16-year-olds. Interestingly, people in their 20s make up the majority of active cases in that state, followed by people in their 30s. And at least 85 cases are Omicron.
Yeah, it's pretty worrying, isn't it? Story number 3, Sean, today. The National Australia Bank Business Confidence Survey shows that a pretty strong recovery is underway.
The bank's latest survey suggests things are definitely on the improve despite a slight drop in corporate confidence during November. Business conditions and sentiment are all important for the economic recovery, in particular the employment market. Companies said they intend to hire more workers and have upgraded their investment plans. Business conditions are now well above the long-term average, though they remain below pre-Delta levels. It's not all good news, Michael. There are still pockets of weakness. Personal services and recreation sectors are still struggling, while Victoria is still weak. But all in all, good news for the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Story number 4 today, Sean, Woolworths yesterday warned that profit growth is slowing as a result of a big jump in COVID-related costs. It's actually a really useful insight into how some of these companies are handling the very real costs from the pandemic.
It is. Chief Executive Brad Banducci said profit in the Australian Foods division was likely to be lower in the current 6 months compared to a year earlier. The reason is around $65 million in higher costs due to supply chain disruptions and higher fuel costs. Now, Mr. Banducci gave some really interesting examples. He said every staff member at Woolworths Distribution Centre had to have a rapid antigen test. Then they had to wait 15 to 20 minutes for the results, and that's a really big cost on the company. It has in part meant the company has had to boost staffing levels, higher costs. More than 18,000 staff have had to isolate during the pandemic, adding more costs. And Big W has been particularly hard hit by the pandemic. Now, its share price was down nearly 8% yesterday, and of course the big question is, will prices rise as a result of it? Mr. Banducci said Woolies won't push through higher prices to try and claw back increased costs, but there will be price rises if the underlying cost of a good has risen.
Okay, final story this morning, story number 5, and I like the fact that we seem to be talking a lot more now about international travel as something that actually is happening rather than is going to happen someday in the future. A big announcement from Qantas yesterday, Sean.
Yes, it will be the first Australian carrier to fly commercial trips using sustainable fuel alternatives after agreeing to buy 10 million litres of biofuels from BP next year. Now, Qantas said it would cut the sustainable fuel with regular jet fuel to reduce carbon emissions on its flights from London by 10%. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is. Interestingly, the fuel will cost more than jet aviation fuel, but Qantas says it's worth the cost.
Yeah, good news, that one. All right, that's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 15th of December, 2021. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't quite enough for you, you can find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.